Hey everyone, welcome to Be Strong, Be You. And because I have so many people joining my blog for the first time this week, officially, I would like to start by saying my name is Tanisha and I have alopecia areata totalis, which means complete hair loss of the scalp. And I'm going to do my post in two parts today, just to break it up, but I will say that procrastination at its finest, and it's a lot because of the anxiety that's coming with my post today regarding, I can't even think, isolation and when things begin changing, more so personally. And I'm going to constantly put my alopecia story in with this because it comes up quite frequently. So before I started my post, I would like to welcome alopecians and supporters from Germany, Sweden, Brazil, and Jamaica. Welcome to the blog. Thank you so much for watching. So I'm gonna get my post done with because I feel like that's why I've been procrastinating, and a lot of things have come across to just be a distraction and just finding anything else to do besides work on this post. And here I am. I just came from the gym and I was like, I gotta come straight in the house and do this. So I really apologize for not being so dressed up, or it is what it is. So today I'm gonna start by talking about, so I was in 4th grade. Last week I talked about my hair growing back starting in 4th grade into 5th grade. Which for in my town, 5th grade, we were in the middle school, but we wasn't really considered middle schoolers. This really started in 6th grade. So the isolation stage, when I was in 4th grade, there was a lot of isolation. And so I'm gonna refer back to, this is the time, to my note from the author. My story, my perspective. Still in a tasteful manner, but my perspective. So I talk about how, I'm going to talk about how I was isolated, and on several occasions, because I was the oldest still. At this point, I was the oldest of 4, and there was times when my brother was very social, and it wasn't that I wasn't, it was just that there was just far more boys in our group growing up to play sports with. He was a runner, he was very athletic, even at a young age. But the thing is that we grew up all together. We went to the same school, we went to the same church, and we was one of those people that was in church Sunday morning, Sunday night, Wednesday, Friday, choir rehearsal. So we was always in church doing some kind of activity. But when my brother's friends would come to the house, and I can't speak for why this happened, I used to always have to stay in the room, even if it meant staying in the room all day. So it would typically look like I'm in the room babysitting my littlest brother, and my stepdad would bring me my lunch. I got to go out for a few bathroom breaks, most likely if they went outside to play and nobody was in the house, and then I would go back to the room until they left. It's also important to note that my mom was never at home when these things were happening, and I'm not sure if I never spoke up against what I was told to do because they were very heavy-handed. They were disciplinarian. So it was just one of those things where I was doing things I know out of fear of not getting a whooping. So that happens quite a bit. We ended up moving to a home that was a little bit further, and yes, in a small town. Seriously, it was still in walking distance when you think about like me living in St. Louis. I'm like, man, I could have walked everywhere when I was little. Why didn't I? I acted like it was such a long, journey. So when we moved, it wasn't that big of a deal because everyone didn't live immediately around us or even closer to us. And so that isolation kind of slowed up. It doesn't get worse until I get older. So at this point, I'm gonna tell you that my family was not the affectionate family. We didn't tell each other we loved each other. We didn't hug each other. We barely really even communicated. We only communicated on a kind of like a as needed basis, like do your chores, do you have any homework? It was just like the routine of getting through the everyday life of being a parent and a student. Other than that, we really didn't do a whole lot of communicating. A lot that we talked about was what went on at church or what I needed to do, or it was a kind of on-the-go family where me and my brother were very self-sufficient at a very early age. But I will say that my grandmother, I was very affectionate with my grandmother, and we will get to, you will hear about her throughout my story. So I brought up the not being affectionate for a reason and non-communication, because a lot of my time during this point, me and my brother had a very, just a very normal sibling relationship. We spent a lot of time just with each other. We did a lot of arguing. We did a lot of playing. We made a lot of memories, singing, taking forever to clean our rooms until we eventually got a whooping for taking too long. But the one thing I didn't like is when it came to asking or getting something, and this was mainly never from my mother. My mother was never really around. Sometimes she was. I used to always have to beg for stuff. So even if it was something so small as a cup of water, you know, it would just be given to my brother. And I would be like, please, can I? You know, and it just became a game, and I hated it to the point where I was in tears about, why do I have to beg for it? And my mom used to always be so mad when she would actually witness it and say, don't make her beg for that. She used to hate it. So I bring up the begging because when we moved into our new house, me and my brother had our rooms in the basement, and they were side by side. And there was this night, and I'll bring up the affection, that I had to give you a precursor, that there was this night where we were in our new rooms. We were excited to have our own space because up to this point, we always shared a room. And here we are, own room, own space. And, you know, when you're watching it on TV and you're watching dads and moms give their children hugs and kisses before they go to bed, you're like, I want to experience that. Here we are. We have our own room. We're going to be a wholesome family. White house, picket fence. We had dogs. But this particular night, I'm begging. My brother, you know, we're asking for hugs and kisses before we go to bed. And stepdad walks to my brother's room, gives him a hug and a kiss, and here I am begging again. And this probably, I'll get to that. I keep begging, and eventually he comes in to give me a hug. Gives me a hug, and when he gives me a kiss, it's not on my cheek, it's not on my forehead, it's on my lips. And I can't say what I felt at that point, but I knew what just happened wasn't what I was seeing on TV. And I immediately just turned over and closed my eyes and went to sleep. So due to the lack of communication that I actually had with my mom, because at this point I was too fearful to say anything because I thought it would result in disciplinary action, I never told my mom at this point what had happened. I just knew, I felt that I didn't feel okay. I guess I couldn't explain the feeling. I just knew it was weird to me, and I didn't feel okay about it. And so as we move in my story, I start to see things happening. And what I would like to say is at this point, I felt like my silence in telling in some way gave permission to continue. So, you know, things are happening, and you'll start to see that I'm either figuring out how to be out of my home through some type of activity, or I start to want my friends to come over to protect me from the activity because my friends were there. And I didn't get to have very many friends. Very few people at this point. It's like I never really got anybody to be able to come spend the night with me. or because a lot of our sleepovers, and I'll do a shout out to my childhood friends, a lot of my sleepovers happened at my grandmother's house. But eventually I start trying to figure out how can I get someone to be able to come stay with me out of protection. That was really hard, guys. That was really hard. And so I want to say that as I begin my future post, I'm not going to try to go into very much detail because I don't really feel like Facebook is the place for that. But I start to see things in my home happening to me, and it's happening when we're wrestling. Me and my brother used to have workout challenges against each other, and I guess in all of this, I always said, now that I am a mother, I wish I would have had the open line of communication that I have with my son now. I wish I would have had that with my mother, because had I been, the sooner I would have been able to talk to her, the sooner things probably would have stopped. But I was just too scared. I can't imagine my son being so scared to tell me when things are happening to him. Even if he comes home and tells me about an instance at school that was unfortunate because kids were talking mean to him or whatever, I just could not imagine him walking in the door and not being able to tell me that he's hurting. And as you see my post, you're gonna see that my mom starts to pick up on things. And at this point, from my perspective, I don't know if she doesn't really want to address it because she just doesn't want to come to the realization, or she just is unsure in herself and doesn't want to cause a problem. So I just wanted to tell you the moment when I knew things were going wrong. And for parents, please, as you hear my story and you're watching this, if you don't have communication with your child and you do happen to live anywhere, and I'm not trying to say, I don't want to start this thing where people who have to be around males, no, all males are not like that. But it only takes one to ruin it for a person. It only takes one time. It only takes one person to mess it up for a child's life, to mess up their perspective of what things should be like. And just be very mindful of that for your children, boys or girls. So I just wanted to set that up for my next post, because I'm going to be talking about many things from different perspectives of home and school. So at this point, I was in middle school, and of course, everything is still done around parental guidance. You were only 11, 12 years old. So there wasn't much I could do, but anger is the beginning stages of my anger inside. You know, I was still a very good student. I didn't really go to birthday parties or things with my friends at school. So at this point, no one's questioning me. But there will get to a point where my friends at school begin to question me of what is going on. And I'm still too scared to talk about it. So stay tuned for the rest of that post and the rest of the story moving forward. Whew, had to get that out. So I had to put this in 2 videos, and I'll put it together. But I did want to start by giving thank yous that are in order for this past Saturday. So first, I'd like to thank Ken Smith from Something Wonderful Photography for doing the photos. I'd like to thank one of my sisters, Kel, who was also in the photos with us, for being there to kind of guide and direct. You know, that's her element, so she did a wonderful job getting our photos together. And me, I'm sure you saw her directing on Facebook Live, so that was fun. I would also like to thank Brittany Christian, who was the makeup artist for several of us, and she's amazing, so I will leave her information as well. I'd like to thank my remaining sisters, Rochelle, Keisha, Tiara, and Tatiana. They were my support, and as I did mention in a Facebook Live video, I have a few other sisters who were not able to be a part on that day, so we'll try to get them in later posts if we can. So you'll hear more from my sisters, so it's going to be really fun. I'd like to also thank Natalie and Anika. They're younger, but they were keeping up with us. Natalie was being my little assistant for the day and behind Facebook Live. And Anika did everything from hair to helping us with the babies. So, I mean, they were helping. They did some signs for me that we used in my photos. So I'd like to thank them as well. And last but not least, I would like to thank all of my supporters, you all. The overwhelming outpour for support was just amazing. I would have never thought in a million years that at 32 years old I would do something this bold for me and scary for me, and it would just come out flawless. And you all were just right there with me with the comments of support, and I will never be able to forget that day and how I felt in that moment. And I'm still reflecting. It's kind of surreal. It's kind of like, did I do that? So just continue on. I'm still working on every day, getting out of my bed and putting something on my head and not feeling like I have to have something. It's still a mental thing every morning, but I'm making it through. So thank you so much for everything. I could go on about the thank yous all day long, but when I come back, hopefully I'll have some videos and some more photos, the actual photos for you to see. But thank you so much. Thank you for all the support, and see you next Wednesday. If not this Saturday on Facebook Live, I'll see you next Wednesday on here. So don't forget to connect with me on Facebook. I'm starting Snapchat, but I'm not gonna get too much into that. I'm still in the beginner stages. So be strong, be you. Have a great week, and love you all.